It is Tuesday, February 9th, and it is the bonus balance update coming out of the Season 8 changes. We got a lot of stuff that's been changed around, some shifts to the meta. I'm going to real quick dive into how I think these changes are going to impact the meta, what I think hi-rez's intent was. Thank you, Freya, for shaking literally not at once all day, and now she does it right when I'm recording. Anyway, we're going to dive into these changes. We're going to talk about how I think it's going to influence the meta and how I think you should change your builds or do things differently moving forward. So let's get right to it. Brett, go away. First up in the skins, the hi-rez art team is killing it as usual. I'm going to get every single one of these. Pele is my girl. I love this Sloth skin. We've all been waiting for Baseball Heimdall, and this is a cool android mecha futuristic skin. But we're not here for that. We are here for the bonus balance stuff. We are here for the item changes and god changes. There's only a few of them, but there's some pretty hefty ones, especially ones that have been dominating the meta recently. I think we're going to see more nerfs around these items, specifically Conduit Gem and Mannequins. But we shall see. First thing is Conduit Gem is like the old golden bow for hunters, right? It is an early game crutch item that gives damage to gods that don't have it and boosts their clear to the point where they just don't get punished in the early game. Think like your Scylla, your new Wa doesn't really do a ton of damage. You know, gods who are really going to struggle in the early game with their clear, but then they get to late game and bam, it's like they hurt, right? So this early game crutch item, they've reduced the magical power in the MP5. Do I really think it's going to have that big of an impact? Probably not, because the flat damage on it is what's interesting about this item. And I think that that's going to continue to get used. Maybe not as much by like gods with spammy abilities, like I guess New Wa is kind of a good example, or like Discordia, because their cooldowns are so short, you can't really stack up that flat damage passive on it. So maybe we'll see a change in this one. Next up is Archmage's Gem. This is the big change. This turns already bursty characters into really bursty characters. You know, it's like having another soul gem on top of a soul gem, and it's not hard to stack it, right? And decreasing the scaling per stack from 2.5% to 2% is good. The scaling goes from 50% to 40%. So if you have 500 power, instead of Archmages doing another 250, it will only do 200. That's a pretty significant amount of damage lost by the passive. But it's still going to be a good item. It's still going to be good with burst characters like New Wa, Scylla, Ra, if you name it. If you're gonna yeet an ability through a team fight and it's your one big bad ability, Archmage's Gem is going to be sick for that. Pendulum of the Ages. I actually think this one's kind of a weird one, right? Because it's a good item. It's a good item in its own right. It gives you an additional 100 power on top of whatever it gives you if you're at full mana. And they've increased the cooldown reduction from 10% to 20%. So you could almost build like hyper bursty in the early game. And then when you upgrade this, you're getting the 20% cooldown that's usually only reserved for something like a breastplate or a Chronos pendant or anything like that, right? This is basically 20% cooldown, 100 plus power for 2,500 gold late game. Plus you get that nice mana sustain passive early. I actually think this might bump Sands of Time into the meta just a little bit, but again, more so for the super spammy mages like Disco or like Giannis or gods like that, where, you know, maybe you're not taking advantage of the Archmage's passive too much other than your initial ultimate. I think Pendulum might actually be a better choice. We're definitely going to try that out tonight on some of the mages. Next up is Mannequin Scepter. And there's 3 changes here. that I think are pretty decent. Decreasing the physical protections. This makes it so it's more of a jungle clear item, not a fight in lane item, right? So it's not going to work on Sylvanas anymore. I mean, I guess it still can. It can work on Sylvanas. It can work on some gods that have really poor clear, like yeah, I mean, I guess you could run it on like Olorun if you wanted to. But this isn't like the go-to item right out of the gate for solo laners, hunters, some supports like Sylvanas, and all of the junglers. It's really being shifted towards more of a jungle focused item because they're increasing the bonus jungle damage, but they're decreasing the bonus damage from 16 to 12. So basically, if you're in the jungle, you're going to do the same amount of damage. You're going to have less overall prots, which doesn't really matter if you're just clearing camps. And if you're in lane, if you're Cullen or if you're Osiris or someone like that, maybe you're going to look to a different item now because you don't get nearly as much value out of it. You can't just burn through people. Bluestone, this is the upgraded version of Bluestone, adding 200 health to it. Do I think it's going to bring this into the meta? No. I think Warrior's Axe and Sundering Axe are way too good. I think we're going to need to see an additional change from Bluestone here. Maybe you'll see this used on like assassin supports or really aggressive early game gods, or maybe like a Sun Wukong. But I mean, I feel like Warrior's Axe is just better in every single way. Warrior's Axe, the change is reducing the flat damage reduction and increasing the health. This is kind of a net neutral change to me. I guess you can't fight into level 1 nearly as well because of archers and things like that. I think Warrior's Axe is going to drop off a bit. And I think we'll see some diversity around that between this and the Sigil. But I don't think this is going to fall out of favor as like the go-to. This is pretty much the easy, safe choice for every single solo laner. And Sundering Axe is basically like having another ethereal staff. So it's just a solid item to begin with. I mean, if you're playing a Guardian solo, you can get this and E-Staff and both passives proc and you get 1 billion health. It's awesome. Warding Sigil. Nobody bought Warding Sigil. I don't even remember what it does, if I'm being honest with you. It was so bad I didn't even like give the item the time of day. But adding physical protections to it and decreasing the health, I think is an interesting change. I think it already has flat damage reduction on it. But prots and reducing of the health, according to a bunch of solo lane friends of mine that have tried this out on the PTS, it's actually a solid item now and maybe even a must buy. And then the 2 upgrades of it, we've got Infused Sigil, which I don't think anybody's going to buy. 500 magical power on Detonate. It's like, I don't know, I'd almost rather have a different item that's going to allow me to fight for longer or more. And then Sigil of the Old Guard, getting prots on it. I think this is probably going to be the choice for most solo laners that are going to go in. What's up next? War Flag. This change just sucks. Decreasing the cost of War Flag doesn't matter. War Flag, you're either missing out on Benevolence or Sentinels. And both of these 2 items are just so good that there is just no way that you could justify getting War Flag, especially even if you're playing like some hyper aggressive early game character. I don't think War Flag is nearly as good as Benevolence and Sentinels. I think Bobby did the math in one of his YouTube videos, but the amount of aggression and the invading that you could do early and even the late game that you have with the 2 upgrades of this item is just not worth how far behind you are if you don't go Benevolence or you don't go Sentinels. This is the tier 2 Sentinels. Benevolence in particular, this decreased cost I think is going to pull this into the meta because of the extra gold you gain from having Benevolence on. It's almost like having an upgraded Guardian's Blessing right at the beginning of the game. You basically get double gold right out of the gate, and the amount of XP that you share is kind of negligible anyway if you are getting your protections online faster. At 600 gold, and I think it takes like 200 seconds or something like that to make up the cost of this in your build. So a little less than 3 minutes and you've made up for the Benevolence. Yeah, you're gonna split a lot of farm, but it also means that if you're the kind of support that has to sit on your mid laner and keep them alive and you don't have pressure in the mid lane, they're not going to fall behind. And with the way that mid mages are swinging right now, this is a good pickup if you feel like you can't play aggressively at all. Especially like if you're like on Khepri and you got like, I don't know, who's like a hyper late game god. I'm just trying to think. It's not coming to me. But if you're on Khepri and you got some hyper late game mid lane, and they're having trouble clearing, you guys are having trouble pressuring, Benevolence is a good pickup. Sentinel's Embrace. Honestly, even at 100 prots, this item is just gross. And especially if you're just going to squat with auras on your backline, this is still going to be a big pickup. Compassion. Yeah, so Compassion is you take a lot of the damage that's incoming your direction and you take it as magical damage. It's going to give you magic prots to offset that. So basically, you're going to take 15% of the damage coming in as magical damage. You're going to mitigate a whole bunch of it with these prots and other prots that you've built, especially around 17 when you can upgrade this. I think this might be a solid upgrade, especially if you're going to run the Benevolence, kind of sit back and squat on your carries line. Animosity no longer deals bonus to damage structures. I think this is kind of a weak nerf. The annoyance of Animosity isn't the bonus damage to structures. It's the fact that a full health of a mana with his ult up can walk at you with no punishment and auto you for 400 as a warrior with a hastened katana or a frostbound, and you just die as a carry. I think this needs further nerfs. It's still an obnoxious item, and it's not punishing enough to not get the starter item early game to get the Animosity procs. All right. Death's Temper. Apparently this item is still bugged. Yes, you get the stacks for it. I think it could be a good item, but apparently there's a bug for it.
No, turn around and run.
That's preventing it from preventing you from getting the full benefit of this. But yeah, so you'll get the full stacks, but apparently there's a bug with the way the damage comes out, or the basic attack damage is increased. Ratatouille. Okay, this is the big change for mages in the mid lane. Decreasing the magical power from 160 to 140 does not kill this item. I think a lot of people are looking at Ratatouille and saying, oh no, it's lost 20 power, there's just better items, things like that. That's not the case. Ratatouille is the single best mage item out there right now, but the difference is where you're going to shift it in your build. Typically you'd go a starter item into a tier 1 of a flat pen item, so Divine or Deso. You'd finish your boots, finish Divine or Deso, and then you go right into Ratatouille because the passive on it, all that power, all that good stuff, that 10% pen felt really, really good. The difference is now in that Ratatouille slot, you're going to go Soul Gem first, then Ratatouille, then your Obsidian Shard, whereas before you'd go Ratatouille into Soul Gem, into Ob Shard, or another flex item in that last slot if you felt like you didn't need the percent pen. Tahuti is still a very, very good item. It's just that Soul Gem is going to have way more benefit to you in your build and the damage that you're going to do with the scaling passive versus Ratatouille with its passive, because not only are you reducing the amount of power that you get on it, you're also reducing the amount of benefit that you get out of the passive of Ratatouille, because now you have less overall power. I would push this one later in your build, but I would still build it absolutely. Yeah, and Soul Gem costs less, right? The cost of it's a 3,000 gold item versus a 2,300 gold item, or 2,350. Set's gross. These nerfs are good. Do I think it's going to stop him from being like one of the most amazing gods of the game? No, because he abuses Boomba's hammer, and so his late game is literally unstoppable. Decreasing base damage from his skewer is just gonna it's gonna slow him down a little bit in the late game, but not really. Kingslayer, the healing nerf on this is actually interesting. I think this is the one that's going to have the biggest impact. He kind of just gets to walk at you for free right now. And with anti-healing being nerfed and people not prioritizing anti-healing in their builds anymore, Set just kind of got to W key at you with his ult up, and he would heal over and over and over again. This is a good change, but ultimately, you know, 10 healing at level 20, like per tick at level 20, not necessarily something I think is going to have an earth-shattering impact. And then last but not least, we got Cupid, decreasing the scaling on his heart bomb from 80% to 75, 10% on double hit, I think it's a good change. Cupid's kind of oppressive. He's kind of fallen out of the meta a little bit. I haven't seen too many Cupids. I still think he's a good god. I think Apollo is kind of dominating right now. And then increasing the cooldown on Fields of Love. This is actually more of a change. I don't think aimed at his early game. I think this is more aimed at his like mid game where he gets a ton of cooldown. And you know, you could have like what is it, 20% cooldown by like third item, right? So you go from a 90-second cooldown to like 70, 75. I mean, you're getting 2 ults off in somebody's beads timer, no problem. You can kill them. So this is a good change. I think we'll still see more Cupid out there. Cupid has one of the safest clears in the game because he can launch the heart bomb and back up. He can ult himself to get out of trouble. He's got a dash. He's got in lane sustain. I don't think there's any reason we see Cupid fall out of the meta entirely. I think this is just to make him less oppressive. But anyway, that's it for me, guys. This has been the bonus balance here on February 9th. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Come by the stream, talk about it, yell at me, tell me why I'm wrong. I'd love to hear your thoughts, but that's how I think things are going to play out in the meta. I'll be doing some testing tonight live on my stream, so hopefully you guys will see some of the games from that when I upload them later. And I'll let you guys know what I think as I'm playing through each of these changes. Thanks for watching. See you on the next one.